Okay, so today's lesson is going to be on index notation. Our learning goals for today, by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to expand and evaluate expressions, write in index form, and find the prime factor form of numbers. Okay, so first off, we'll look at indices. So indices is just the plural for index. So here we've got 5 cubed, or 5 to the power of 3. So 5 is what we call the base, and 3 is what we call the index, or the power. So 5 to the power of 3 just means 5 times 5 times 5. So 5 is our base, 3 is our index, or our power. So the first thing we're going to look at is writing in expanded form. So a cubed, or a to the power of 3, written in expanded form is a times a times a. So we've got two examples here. So write each of the following in expanded form. So the first one is c multiplied by z in brackets to the power of 4. So to write that in expanded form, we'll do a first. We'll have c z to the power of 4 equals, so all that means is c times z times c times z, I'll just put a little line through my z's to make them different from my t's, times c times z times c times z. So it's just cz times cz times cz times cz. So just written out 4 times there. For b, I'll just clear the screen there. We have 2a cubed b to the power of 4. So the way we write that is 2 times a times a times a. So that's our a cubed. And then we've got b to the power of 4 times b times b times b times b. So we've just expanded out our indices there. Okay, the next, expanding and evaluating. So if you were given a question that said expand and evaluate 5 cubed, what you would do is you'd expand. So you'd expand that to 5 times 5 times 5, and then you'd evaluate, which means solve, and 5 times 5 times 5 equals 125. So we've got two examples, and we have to write each of them in expanded form and then evaluate them. So for A, we've got -2 to the power of 5. So A, that just means to expand, all we have to do is do -2 times -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. So that's -2 multiplied by itself 5 times. So then we can evaluate. -2 times -2, so negative times the negative is going to give us a positive, so it's going to give us +4. +4 multiplied by -2, a positive times a negative will give us a negative, which will give us -8. -8 times -2, a negative times the negative will be a positive, which will give us 16. 16 multiplied by -2, a positive times a negative will give a negative. 16 times -2, it will give us -32. So if you want to write down those steps that I did, so put a few extra lines of working in, that's okay. You don't have to do it in your head, you can write the lines of working. Then for B, I'll clear the screen again. For B, we've got a fraction. So we've got 3/4 squared. So the way we would write that is we'd rewrite our question for a start. So 3/4 squared. And the way we write that is just 3/4, 3/4. So 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. So we'll just write our answer as 9/16. Okay, the next is writing in index form. So you might get a question like this. It says 5 times A times A times A times A. I think there's enough A's. And you just have to write that in index form, which would be 5 times by A to the power of 4. We've got a few examples to do. So the first one there, A is 7 times A times A times A times 2 times B times A times B. And what we have to do is write that in index form. So that means turn it into our powers. So the first thing I would do is I'd actually rewrite that and bring our numbers out the front. So 7 times 2, and then I'd put all of our variables together. So all the A's together and all the B's together. So 1, 2, 3, 4 A's and 2 B's. And from there, I would write it in, I'd start solving where I can. So the 7 times 2, I can do that. 7 times 2 is 14. And I'd write the rest in the index form. So it'd be a to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4. And b squared. So that would be my answer in index form. 14, a to the power of 4, b to the power of 2. Just clear that one there. For b there, we have fractions. So we have 2 over 4 multiplied by 2 over 4 multiplied by 2 over 4 multiplied by 3 over 7 multiplied by 3 over 7. So what we can do there is we can start grouping, we don't have to group them together, they already are grouped together, the same fractions are kind of grouped together, so then we can just write it in index form. So our first one would be 2 over 4, and we'll put it in brackets, and then we're going to put it to our power, which is the power of 3, because there was 3 of those. And then we're going to multiply that by our second fraction, which was 3 over 7 to the power of 2, because there was 2 of those in that question. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is finding the prime factor form. So the question says express 144 as a product of prime factors in index form. So if we break that down, product means multiplication, so we're going to have to express this multiplication of prime. So prime numbers are numbers that only have one of themselves as factors. So prime factors are factors of 144 that are prime numbers in index form. So we know index form means in powers. So that's probably still a little bit confusing, even though you may know what the words themselves mean. You may be a bit lost what the question's actually asking. So we'll work through an example and it'll become quite clear, and it's really quite easy. The first thing you're going to do is write the number, which is 144, in the middle of your page. So 144. The next thing you're going to do is going to pick 2 factors that, when multiplied together, equal 144. It doesn't matter what factors you pick, any factors will give you a correct answer. So for instance, you can pick 12 and 12, which is what I will do, because 12 times 12 is 144. If you wanted to do 72 times 2, that would also be okay. From there, we're going to focus on one of the 12s, and we're going to break that down even further and pick 2 of its factors. So it doesn't matter again, so you can do 3 times 4, which is what I'm going to do, or you could do 2 times 6, either of those is okay. So 3 times 4 equals 12, and 3 is a prime number. So I'm just going to put a circle around it, and I've kind of finished with that branch. But 4, I haven't got down to prime numbers, so I'm going to break it down a bit further. So I'm going to pick 2 of the factors of 4. Now the only option I've got is 2 times 2, which are both prime numbers. So some of you may be thinking, hang on, why didn't I do 1 times 4, because 1 is a prime number? Technically 1 isn't a prime number. I'm not going to get into that now. If you're curious, you can look it up. But for now, just note that 1 is not a prime number. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to branch down in the 12. And I'm just going to show you that you don't have to pick the certain numbers. So on this side, I'll do 2 times 6, because 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 6. Now 2 is a prime number, so I'm going to circle that. 6 isn't a prime number. It can be broken down further. 2 times 3, and both of those are prime numbers. So you can see here what I'm left with is a bunch of prime numbers that I've circled. So the next thing I'm going to do is, beside that, I'm going to write down all of the prime factors. So therefore 144 equals 3 times 2 times 2. That's that one branch done. On the other branch, 2 times 2 times 3. So what I've got there is I've got all the prime factors, but it asks me to write them in index form. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to rearrange it so the numbers are together. So the 3 times 3, and then all the 2s. Sorry, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That is a 2, not a 7. And from there I can write it in index form. So 3 times 3 is the same as writing 3 squared. And 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is the same as writing 2 to the power of 4. So therefore the 144 equals 3 squared. I'll rub that out and try again. So 3 squared, there we go, multiplied by 2 to the power of 4. And that's our answer there. So you can see there from the branches how to work your way down to our answer on the right. hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Make sure you've taken notes from this video, watch it again if you need to, and please come and see me if you have any questions.